I recently resold the battery in my clamshell iBook G3 because the battery was completely dead as it was made over 26 years ago. It was by far the most technical project that I've done to date, and I'm pleased how it turned out, and it's still performing well. But it's not something I want to revisit anytime soon. If you haven't seen it yet, there's a link on screen and I highly recommend you checking it out. But to quickly recap, I had a bunch of spare battery cells lying around and decided to put them to work by trying to get them up and running in my iBook. But first, a quick message from our friends over at PCBWay. If you want to make your own PCB designs or build an open source project, PCBWay has all the tools to make that a reality. Not only do they do PCB fabrication, but they also offer services such as 3D printing in various materials, all the way through to injection molding, CNC machining, and sheet metal fabrication. They offer a fantastic service for extremely reasonable prices. Please consider using them for your next project. There's a link to their website in the description below. So lately I've been playing around with my Titanium PowerBook G4 a lot, and it too has a dead battery, but also a dead PRAM battery, which causes this super annoying error every time I boot up. Feeling more confident after my iBook success, I thought, why not tackle this next? After all, I can't find replacements online anymore, so it's up to me to rebuild it. The battery is located under the optical drive, and it's easy to get to once you remove the 9 or so Phillips screws from the underside. The PRAM battery is made up of 4 VL2330 3V rechargeable cells, which look very similar to the CR2032 cells used most everywhere else. They are simply spot welded together with some nickel strips, and there's 3 wires which connect to the connector. This is vastly simpler than the iBook's battery, and I'm sure I won't break anything this time. Here I'm using some measuring calipers so I can see the width of the nickel so I know what I need to order, and just like that I have an Amazon delivery. I next need to find replacement batteries, which I thought would be easy, but has proved somewhat more difficult than anticipated. All the ones I was finding have these little tabs spot welded to them already. I couldn't find just the batteries on their own. I'm sure if I had better Google feel I'd find some, but these will have to do. The idea is to put these in a vise and pull off the tabs with a pair of pliers, then cut some nickel strips to the same length and spot weld them in place. But before we do that, we need to remove the connectors for the wiring, as I plan to reuse this later. I prefer not to use a soldering iron if I can get away with it. What is absolutely crazy to me is how difficult it is to pull off these strips and connectors. Considering how tiny the spot welds are, it's incredibly strong. I tried filming the removal of the longer strips on the back, but it was awkward, so I gave up. Removing the wires to the connector was equally as difficult, as I need to pay special attention to them as I don't want to damage them. They got a bit bent up, but this was quickly fixed by clamping them down in a pair of pliers. It's not OEM, but it doesn't look too horrible. So here are the 3 wires to the connector that we're going to reuse. The positive and negative connectors get spot welded to the batteries, and then the white one, which I don't actually know what it does, balancing perhaps? I don't know. Anyway, that gets welded between the 4 batteries. I applied a generous amount of insulating tape around everything after I'd finished. This is because they come in direct contact with the housing of the laptop, which is titanium, which means metal, which means conducting, which means potentially a bad time. There's a little cutout here and the new pack fits in it nicely. I don't have any double-sided tape, and this also may inadvertently increase the height of the battery and could potentially cause tolerance issues, so I'm simply using good old Kapton tape. Plus, I think it looks a bit more pro than sticky tape. The connector is fiddly but will only go in one way, so I initially got it lined up and then pushed it in the rest of the way with my spudger. All I need to do now is button up the bottom of the case and give it a test. So with the machine connected to Ethernet, I booted it up and set the date and time via the date and time control panel. Remarkably, as of filming, this still works. I shut the machine down and disconnected the power cable for about 10 seconds. Usually this would cause the PowerBook to completely forget what century it's in, but hopefully after we connect it back up again and boot the machine up, this will be an issue of the past. So whilst the machine boots up and we wait with anticipation, how much did this little project cost? Well, I had to buy 10 meters of nickel, but this was about £4. However, the batteries were a little bit spendy. I saw some for £9 each, but I got these for £3 each plus shipping, so it didn't cost the earth. And as you can see, the time is now correct. This has been a fun little project that doesn't require too much skill. And if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.